So somebody asked me about which Saturday morning cartoons I used to watch as a kid last night, and I really drew a blank. My parents never had cable. And that's true, they didn't. But it's not really the reason. I wouldn't have watched them if I did have cable, I don't think. See, I do think I can actually draw larger conclusions about my individuality through my disengagement with popular culture. So I think this is worth a bit of a rant. The truth is that I used to sleep in on Saturday mornings. Even when I was, young. I slept in. And the reason is that my parents were divorced when I was quite young. And Friday night was the time I spent with my dad. He'd often keep me up until well past midnight, even when I was very young. So I would almost always be asleep on Saturday mornings until close to noon. And that's as long back as I can remember. I guess most parents want to put their kids to bed early on Friday nights so they can get a rest from their kids. For me, it was the opposite. I wasn't allowed to go to sleep. I had to stay up. And I do remember that. I would be just dragging myself at 2 o'clock in the morning, barely able to stay awake. But not allowed to go to bed. That was just the truth of it. So rather than watch early morning cartoons on Saturday, I always watched late night movies on Friday. And they were outside of my age group, I'll say. So I actually remember being isolated from the other kids because of it. They'd all be talking about the cartoons that they watched, and acting them out and doing the things that kids do. And I just had no idea what they were talking about. I'd hear them, talk about this character and they'd, act out this thing or whatever, and I was clueless. So I ended up on the outside. What I wanted to ask was if they'd seen the new Tom Hanks film, the Star Wars trilogy, Indiana Jones, The Godfather. I saw all the classic movies when I was 8, 9, 10, right? And the answer was they hadn't. Of course they hadn't. They were 8. They weren't allowed to watch movies like that, or they wouldn't want to, or if they were allowed to and wanted to, they wouldn't even be able to follow it. And so I found myself unable to relate to the other kids at a pretty young age. And then a pattern developed as I grew older. People would ask, had I seen the new sitcom? No, I hadn't. I really hadn't. I was reading a Stephen King book or something else. Had I seen the new action series? Still didn't have cable. Had I played the new video game? I actually never had a gaming console. And the truth is I never wanted one. I preferred to play my guitar. See, I've argued in the past that you could probably convert me into a normal dipshit by sitting me down and making me watch every episode of Friends for a month, Clockwork Orange style. You can imagine it, right? Got my eyes glued open, watching Friends just bombarded at me. The reason that I'm not a normal dipshit is that I didn't watch every episode of Friends or any episode of Friends. I don't know which one I am. I'm not even entirely sure who is who. What that means is that I never got all the subtle capitalist brainwashing that they cram into TV, and I've consequently never really had to reverse it. So all the left-wing music and political commentary, reading and the internet and everything else, it came at me as tabula rasa. I didn't form myself by reacting against the status quo, so much as I formed myself by not even knowing what the status quo was. I was formed by music, by books, by the internet, but I didn't have to undo anything. It got me clean. It got me pure. Okay? There's a lesson for parents there. If you keep your kids off TV, they may end up with a higher kind of pure intelligence. And I've always been smarter than other people in a purely intellectual way. I don't apologize for stating that is the truth. You can measure me on tests, on aptitude tests. I promise you my aptitude scores are higher than yours. It's just the truth of it, okay? But the functional outcome of this may just end up being a lifetime of alienation and an inherent inability to understand how to conform, okay? And I'll be honest with you, I don't really attach much importance to the fact that I have high IQ scores. I do have higher IQ scores than you, but I'd rather have better social skills. Okay? That's the truth of it. But forced brainwashing aside, I know I'm far too gone. I'm halfway to my grave. I'm not worth the energy, and I kind of like myself who I am anyways. But in hindsight, I do realize that the long-term social disadvantages of not being able to relate to the people around me when I was very little, and I'm aware that I'd be very different today had I actually watched those Saturday morning cartoons with the other kids and acted out the stupid scenes and did the stupid things. Because I would have learned how to make friends better. And that's something I could have used to much greater advantage than the kind of pure intelligence that I built. The ability to make friends is more important than the ability to see patterns in an ink blot. Hindsight's 20/20, but if you've got kids, you might want to think about that.